Hello, I'm Samantha Nolan-Smith, and this is Lessons in Visibility. In this show, we ask what can be learned from the two faces of visibility. The first involves stepping forward and choosing to be seen and heard. The second opens you up to new ways of seeing and hearing the world around you. Welcome to the show. Today, I'm sharing a story that one of our Women Speaking Up students shared with me when I asked about any mindset shifts or habitual changes that they had undergone that had led to a new way of being visible in the world. And Christy's story is one that I think so many people can relate to. So I'm going to share it and then come back and reflect with you on it and invite you to some visibility action in your own life. But before I do, Christy is one of the co-founders of Just Peoples. It's an organization that I'm really proud to partner with. We have been able to support trauma counseling for single mothers in Vietnam, help women to set up sewing businesses in Kenya, supported women in STEM in Bangladesh, provided clean water to communities in Kenya, provided a workshop for girls in Bangladesh about periods and period poverty and how to overcome it, and provided reusable sanitary pads to girls in Tanzania. And I love the way that Christy and Joe's Christy's co-founder, approach their mission of alleviating global poverty by looking to partner with local communities on local issues. In all of the years that I worked with Aboriginal communities across Australia, the number one thing that I found to work was local people leading local solutions. So I was thrilled when Joe and Christy joined Women Speaking Up because I knew their philosophy was in alignment with my own philosophy, and I really encourage you to check out their work and consider donating to one of their life-changing projects. They're at justpeoples.org, and I'll leave the link in the show notes. Here's Christy.
I noticed a shift recently about how I sell. So I run a charity and I don't sell products, but members of the public donate via my organization to support poverty reduction projects. So when we set up the organization, we felt, now I'm speaking on behalf of my co-founder Joe, but we both felt that everyone that we came into contact with needed to give us money. And it became very awkward. We were carrying an energy of hustling and of neediness, and we felt that we had an agenda in every conversation that we were in. Even with long-term friends from high school, we felt that we had an agenda, and that made us feel awkward when we were talking to anybody, even old friends. And our old friends started kind of being tentative around us and not wanting to ask, how's work? Because they didn't want to be put in the position where maybe they need to say, oh, I'm going to donate or I'm going to fundraise. And we didn't want to be in the position where we felt that we needed that. And so it didn't feel good in any way. Through the process of refining our ideal donor and our ideal audience, and also overcoming visibility blocks about how we saw our work and how we spoke about our work, and removing the sort of anxious energy that we carried around it. There was also an element of charity work is not real work. It's volunteering. It's goodwill stuff, so you need to do it for free. And so there were a lot of stories that we carried about charity work when we got into this work that negatively impacted how we showed up and how we spoke to people and how we spoke about our work. And so recently I realized that I've gradually been dropping these stories and I've become more comfortable talking about my work. And if someone asks me what I do, I tell them what I do with no stories. I don't have an agenda that I need them to donate, because I don't. And I don't have a story that I'm only doing charity work. I'm just an expat wife with a hobby where I contribute. So I don't have those stories. I talk about my work in the same way as the people that I'm talking to, whether they're teachers or lawyers or diplomats or whatever they are. They talk about their work in this matter of fact, this is what I do, and I've learned to do that too. And it feels absolutely clean and clear. And this has resulted in some of my friends in Tokyo, where I live. In fact, last week, 2 people came up to me separately and said that they wanted to host fundraising events. One of them is a Christmas cocktail event, which is happening in December, and another one is a giant clothes swap, which is happening in January. And this giant clothes swap is something I wanted to do 2 or 3 years ago, but I didn't know who to ask to be a fundraiser. And so I didn't, because I thought, oh, I can't put this pressure on anyone. I don't have time to organize myself, all of these things. And then now that I've dropped all of these stories and I'm just like, hey, this is what I do. If you like it, cool, come with me. If you don't, cool, let's be friends anyway. Then people are coming to me and saying, hey, I want to fundraise, not because I feel obliged to, not because I know you, but because I like what you want to do and I want to be a part of it. And we're friends also. And it's a peaceful way to have friendships without trying to sell to people, which never felt good. And it's a peaceful way to work, not trying to convince people to donate, but letting the right people come to us.
There are so many things I love about Christy's story. One that I want to draw forth is this difference between the way that you might speak about your job if you work for an organization where many people have trod that path before and you're benefiting from that and then taking it to the next. There's a different set of visibility issues that arise when you're doing that versus when you're starting something from scratch that hasn't been done before, even if, the field isn't new, but you're not going into an existing entity and then finding your way through that, which, as I said, has its own set of visibility issues. In this case, what I'm referring to is starting something from scratch and the visibility components associated with that. What I have noticed is the visibility issues are different because we're going through this process of, first of all, discovering what is it that wants to be created in the world, and then stepping forward to participate in the manifesting of that, in the making real of that on the planet. So there's a process of embodiment of idea and message that is essential in order to get really comfortable and to be as comfortable as, say, I was when I was a public servant and people would say, what do you do? And I'd say, I'm a executive policy director. I was never uncomfortable about mentioning these things because there was no story getting in the way of me stepping into and embodying that role or that identity, which is not to say that there weren't things that I might have wanted to change about it and so forth. But again, very different. When you're creating something new, there's this whole barrier of story and visibility concerns, specifically about how will people perceive me? Will they understand my concept? Will they understand what I'm trying to achieve in the world? Am I going to need to convince people that this is a really important idea? You don't do that so much when you work for someone else because somebody's already done that. There was a person who had to go through that and now they have done it and now everybody who works for them benefits from that. But when you're the founder, you're breaking new ground. And so it's not just about learning tactics and it's not just about getting your messaging right from an intellectual perspective or a strategic perspective. It's about becoming the person who can hold that message, who can carry that message, who embodies the essence of it. And that is what I hear when I hear Christy's story. I hear her moving from the doubting and the questioning or the self-judgment or the place of, is this really something that I can stand for in the world, to this is who I am. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is the difference I make in the world. And that is the journey of visibility. And that's the reason that Christy talks about it as being peaceful, because once you've dropped those stories, you can be at ease in yourself and walk through the world comfortable, speaking about what you do, sharing your work with people, and then allowing people to choose how they wish to engage with the information that you have shared. And by the way, this doesn't just happen at the beginning of a new enterprise. It happens each time we pivot, each time we change our focus of our business or our message, each time we create a new program or a new product and then we put that out into the world. There's a version of that happening. I was working with a woman recently who's had a business for many years, very successful, and had pivoted. And we were working through many of the same steps that Christy speaks about, in the sense that we come back to questioning, well, what do I really stand for? And is that what I want to be visible for in the world? And how comfortable do I feel about that? And what are my reservations? And what do I need to clear out in order to fully embody this new approach? So my question to you today is, do you feel peaceful being visible for what you are here to share with the world? And if not, what's one of the stories that you could drop today that is getting in the way of you being fully embodied in that message and in that essence? And if you're wondering, well, how am I going to drop it? Because it's pretty convincing. I hear you. And the first thing I do is I give compassion to that part of myself that does not want to drop it. And so I just recognize that part. I allow them to be heard. I don't try and squash them. I give them voice, let them express their concerns, and I give them compassion for everything that they are feeling or everything that they're concerned about. So you could today just draw forth one part of yourself that has concerns, that has stories. Let that part of yourself be seen. Give them space. You might journal. You might speak out loud. You might draw and make notes around it. And then just give yourself compassion for all of the fear or concerns or frustrations or whatever it might be. Let that piece of you come to rest, knowing that they have been heard and understood. And if you need facilitation and assistance around that, that is what we do inside Women Speaking Up. You can check it out and come and join us at womenspeakingup.com. Thanks for listening to Lessons in Visibility. If you'd like to connect in other places, come on over to theschoolofvisibility.com. And you can also find us at The School of Visibility on Instagram, Substack, Facebook, and Threads. Lessons in Visibility is produced by the School of Visibility on the land of the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people. I acknowledge the peaceful legacy of custodianship that tens of thousands of years of coexistence with the land has bestowed on us all. And I note the visibility journey that remains unfinished. Voice, treaty, truth.